Washington, U.S. Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat Connecticut, on Thursday took to the U.S. Senate floor toslam Senate Republicans for blocking passage of the Honoring Our PACT Act, legislation to expand health care benefits for veterans. The bill passed last month by a vote of 84 to 14, but another vote was required after the House of Representatives acted on a slightly modified bill to correct the procedural error. On Wednesday night the Senate took a vote on the corrected bill, which failed by a vote of 55 to 42. Anumber of Republican and This is groundbreaking legislation, decades in the making, that provides veterans access to health care for exposure to toxic chemicals. Exposurethat comes through being subjected to military burn pits, Murphy said. Murphy laid out the possible explanations for Senate Republicans having changed their votes to defeat the Honoring Our PACT Act. The more charitable explanation is that 30 Republicans just changed their mind. That 3 weeks ago they thought it was a good bill, helping veterans was a good idea, and 3 weeks later they decided that it wasn't a good idea. That they would rather spend that money on somebody else instead of our most vulnerable veterans. Murphy continued, the less charitable explanation is this: Republicans are mad that Democrats are on the verge of passing climate change legislation and have decided to take out theiranger on vulnerable v. Because that's the other thing that's changed in last 3 weeks. That's the less charitable explanation, because that would be pretty horrific if Republicans were mad about a climate change bill and decided to take out their anger on veterans, on vulnerable veterans. Murphy concluded, either way, Democrats are standing up for veterans. We're going to keep voting for the PACT Act. We're going to bring it back. But 30 Republicans that thought helping veterans was a good idea just 3 weeks ago, all of a sudden have abandoned the cause. A full transcript of his remarks can be found below. I just want to note something that happened here today that was really odd. So, a few weeks back we came together and had a consensus bipartisan vote to stand up for our veterans. A number of Republican and Democratic legislators here, the House and the Senate, worked together to develop something called the PACT Act. This is groundbreaking legislation, decades in the making, that provides veterans access to health care for exposure to toxic chemicals, exposure that comes through being subjected to military burn pits. These are these pits where a lot of toxic chemicals and plastics are burned at military installations, but also for exposure to chemicals like Agent Orange. So we had an 84 to 14 vote here just a few weeks ago in favor of the PACT Act.